So it's like you're paying for this insurance for what purpose?
Just trying to provide the best for my kids and have a roof over their head. But I just need to get the repairs done.
We have heard your concerns about the price of paradise and the crushing cost of insurance.
I was hoping somebody could help us, maneuver through the insurance process. I emailed and I just, I said a prayer to myself and I was just like, if you don't open your mouth, you won't ever find out, what can possibly be able to help you out there.
Throughout this year, Tampa Bay 28 has worked to help you navigate your claims while trying to rebuild from Hurricanes Helene and Milton.
I was looking at the news channels and nobody was talking about this. So that's why I reached out to you. I saw you did a thing on insurance and I said, she's the one I need to call.
Hello and thank you for joining us for this special look at the state of insurance. I'm anchor Nadeen Yanes. Over the last year, you have called, emailed, and sent in questions about how the high cost of insurance is impacting your family's budget. And we have listened. Those policies put to the test here in Tampa Bay after last hurricane season. So keeping in our commitment, we have dug into the claims process and asked experts and community leaders to respond, amplifying your voices for answers.
You can have years and years and years of no deductibles and no claims put in, and they're just making straight profit off that. So it's definitely frustrating and they need to do something about it.
The father you just heard from is one of the people who hoped to get coverage after last year's hurricanes, but he told me that his claim was denied. And he's one of the thousands whose claims were denied without a single penny distributed. This because of his hurricane deductible was simply too high. Another person, a single mom in Tampa. So I decided to look into why so many claims are being denied and how sky-high deductibles are leaving Florida homeowners with nothing but the damage left behind.
Don't judge it, kind of all got thrown in here because, but you can see like straight through.
There's more to see in this story.
You can see there's water still coming in right there.
Than just the light coming through Liz Ann's damaged shed.
You can see two sides are bowing apart.
What you can't see
and you paid extra to make sure that this was covered.
Is everything the single mom did before Hurricane Milton to keep her Seminole Heights home protected.
I did everything that I possibly could to be a good homeowner.
She took out all the trees on her property that could come crashing down and even paid more on her insurance premium to make sure her shed and fence were covered.
I upped my insurance specifically to cover these items.
Still, despite that,
they're denying my claim saying it's under deductible.
She's not getting a dime from her insurance company.
So it's like you're paying for this insurance for what purpose?
According to state insurance data in Hurricane Milton, which was a wind, not a flood event, nearly 50% of all claims closed were closed without payment, simply denied. And 40% of those were closed without payment because the claims came in below the deductible. Broken down even further, Citizens, which is Liz's insurer, shows combining all three storms of the claims closed, nearly half, 49%, were closed without payment, denied again. And 35% of those denials were because, again, the damage came below the deductible. This was something Liz tried to avoid.
I specifically didn't want one that high because, God forbid.
Her deductible is only $3,700.
What would you say to Citizens?
That they need to be realistic and pay the claims. Like, no one is out here with a hole in their roof with a tree still in it trying to scam you.
I think that's where people feel like insurance is set up as a scam.
Here's Citizens Property Insurance.
Typically, hurricane deductibles run 2%, 5%, or 10% of what the home's coverage value would be to replace.
10% on a $300,000 home is $30,000. Who has that kind of cash kind of laying around if a storm hit?
We urge our policyholders to speak to their insurance agent, kind of walk through their own situation. Some people are in the financial position where a 10% hurricane deductible makes sense for them. They get lower monthly premiums, but they will have to come up with more cash up front should a big storm hit.
But why is it even set up this way?
The statute actually mandates that there be a hurricane deductible of some kind.
We asked the state's insurance commissioner.
Legislature could certainly make moves to address that. It would just be important that they understand that if they pay a lower deductible, they're likely going to be paying a higher premium.
Simply the price of paradise in Florida, he says, though it's a cost so many have paid.
No, I'm not going to cry. It's fine.
Still waiting to see if insurance comes through for them.
You expect insurance to come through for you after a storm.
Right. I mean, I did everything right. I did everything I'm supposed to do. Where's their part?
Now to update you on the latest data, as of this recording, 35% of Hurricane Milton claims that were claims closed were closed without any payment. For Hurricane Helene, 32% of those claims were closed without a penny. After I spoke with Liz Ann about her issues getting her claims covered, she reached out to me months later to keep me updated on her fight for her claim. Ahead on a special edition here of The Price of Paradise on the state of insurance, I will look into what homeowners face if they plan to take their insurance company to court. I have heard from so many of you who are frustrated after fighting your insurance claims after last hurricane season. A condo owner at Seminole Square Condos actually emailed me. She was concerned for herself and her senior neighbors who had no air conditioning and no roof. We're talking months after Hurricane Milton.
2 dehumidifiers and 6 fans. That's what they did initially.
Before even taking a single step in, you can see what damage is behind Cindy Donnelly's door. In her condo she thought would be her last home.
Is that from the water?
Everything's swollen, so yeah, it's hard to open it.
Her unit, one of the worst destroyed in her building after the roof ripped off during Hurricane Milton, leaving a gaping hole in the bathroom as water poured right in.
This was where you could see up into the sky was right there, and then this ceiling had just fallen all over.
So you would be standing right here and you could see straight up into the sky.
I could right up here, right over in here. You can't see up there now because they have the temporary roof up there.
8 months later, there is still just a temporary roof up here.
I can't get the work done, until the roof is done.
So Cindy emailed me.
I was hoping somebody could help us, maneuver through the insurance process and maybe, point us in a direction of somebody that could help us get our claim processed.
And even worse, when the roof ripped off Cindy's building here, it took all of the AC units with them, some ending up at the pool.
Also, I feel like we're sweating because
I have no AC in here. It's sweating in here.
Yeah.
Meaning there are seniors living here right now in the Florida heat and in a new Florida hurricane season with no AC.
They're still trying to live here. And it's heart-wrenching to see these older people living in the conditions they're living in. Citizens, just please, all we need a roof.
In a statement, Citizens Property Insurance tells me they cut a check to this condo association. In fact, several checks were paid out. So where did that money go?
It shouldn't have taken this long.
we are back here in Seminole at Seminole Square Condos, following through on a story that resonated with a lot of you, our viewers, when you learned that there were seniors living here in this building with no AC months after Hurricane Milton, since last October. We came to tell their stories back in June, trying to navigate their insurance claim. Well, now months later, finally some movement. The caution tape is up and workers are ready to finally replace the roof.
So it was, good news that at least there's work happening, but it's also like, so how long are they going to be working?
I wish I could say the sight of workers climbing ladders and picking up pieces to replace the roof brings overwhelming joy for condo owner Cindy Donnelly. But instead,
very done, really done.
It brings,
yeah. I can't even, it just hurts my head to even think about everything.
Overwhelming stress now 11 months after Hurricane Milton.
I'm supposed to be retired and I just worked part-time for fun, something to do. And now it's just like I'm working like crazy, so I'm exhausted on top of it.
She's paying for rent somewhere else as she's displaced, on top of the bills associated with her condo.
I can't get the work done, until the roof is done.
Which we went inside after Cindy emailed me back in June.
It is so hot right now.
Yeah, there's people on either side of me that are living here.
Then we met her neighbor, 81-year-old Glenda Metters.
Hello!
Living like this, no walls and no AC in Florida's summer heat.
I'm thankful that you come out because, nobody will seem to be listening to us.
After we emailed for our story, Citizens Property Insurance cut yet another check for repairs. This statement in May showing they paid out more than $567,000.
I'm telling you, I'm so thankful and grateful that I reached out to you guys.
After our story, the HOA also met in an emergency town hall meeting.
They provided us some answers then, but then it was like, okay, hurry up and wait.
But the work didn't happen until now.
Talk about
some of the obstacles over the summer.
Craig Coble is the public adjuster on this claim. He said the story at Seminole Square is,
no pun intended, the perfect storm
of an underfunded HOA working with two other HOAs under one insurance policy. Their claim now going through appraisal with an attorney now involved. The building also went through 4 property management companies in the last year alone.
Very tough lessons learned for the board. I think they need to understand that, again, their policy was an issue. You had 3 boards acting independently, but all under one insurance policy. They were not fiscally responsible.
What could our viewers take away from this story?
So really talking with your agent, really just having some commonplace knowledge about an insurance policy, just having the bare minimum coverage that you absolutely have to have.
Well, you definitely need to be cautious about getting into a condo. You need to do your due diligence, and I'm telling you, use a microscope to really look at their financials.
We're told the roof should be done by next week, weather permitting. Drywall also has to be fixed before condo owners like Cindy can begin work on the inside of their units. She's hoping it will be done before the holidays, though she's already done with it all.
We've been through a lot this past year. A lot that we shouldn't have to have gone through.
You've helped me ask those right questions.
Still ahead, we will hear from a woman who reached out to me saying that her property insurance company was dropping her. Hoping to be heard and helped. That was the subject line of an email a Tampa homeowner sent me after getting a letter saying that her property insurance company was dropping her. So in my commitment to helping you navigate Florida's insurance issues, I went out to listen to this woman's story, finding out why she keeps getting denied.
It's gonna be so good though.
Tampa homeowner Alexis Moore Merritt learned how to cook from her grandma Marie.
Like grandma with the old wooden spoon.
And then learned how to cook other cuisines from her friends along the way.
They call it pickles and griot.
Now learning a new lesson as a first-time home buyer, finding herself sizzling with stress ever since she got a letter she's getting dropped by her insurance company.
Non-renewal notice. That was the first thing that actually popped out.
Her company, American Integrity, citing her area in Sulphur Springs is high risk.
Due to catastrophic exposure management.
What was that like?
I don't want to tell my husband. I'm a stay-at-home wife, and I didn't want to tell him because I knew that if they're canceling us, where would I get insurance that is going to now cover a catastrophic area?
Turns out it wasn't easy.
Endless phone calls.
Denial after denial. No one would insure her. Even Citizens Property Insurance, the insurer of last resort, wouldn't insure her. The reason?
I got the call, I'm sorry, but they're not going to pick you up because you have 3 to 5 claims. And I said, all those claims are closed. September 27, 2022.
Alexis put in 5 claims.
Paid $81,000 for wind and water.
In 3 years.
How can you file too many claims when you're paying insurance?
You also didn't know that filing claims could
hinder me. I did not. Shame on me. I learned my lesson.
I reached out to American Integrity. A spokesperson said they don't comment on specific cases, but referred us to insurance agent Jay Colehouse.
Unfortunately, something that, as an industry, we don't do a great job educating consumers about. We just had one where the person had 4 $0 claims. To them, it was for, hey, is this covered, that they called their insurance company on, but unfortunately, it still goes in as a claim, and when it starts to become a maintenance policy, that's when carriers do start to non-renew.
Colehouse said 99% of the time, insurance companies do not drop you for hurricane claims, known as an act of God, but other claims like water damage will count against you, even if you're paid nothing. After calling around to different independent agents who shopped her policy around, Alexis said she was finally able to get insurance. And after her story aired, a Newport Richey homeowner brought to my attention another issue she says homeowners need to be aware of.
I was like, people have to know what's going on.
The cautionary tale she is sharing after her mortgage company found an insurance provider for her.
I was looking at the news channels and nobody was talking about this. So that's why I reached out to you. I saw you did a thing on insurance and I said, she's the one I need to call.
The Newport Richey homeowner you just heard from reached out to me saying buyer beware when it comes to something called force-placed or lender-placed mortgage insurance. This is the type of insurance which experts say is not set up to protect the homeowner at all.
It's very overwhelming because I'm not a stupid person.
Rose Martin wants you to hear her story to make sure you don't get caught up in what she calls the false hope of insurance coverage.
It's false hope.
False hope in what is known as forced-placed or lender-placed insurance. As part of your agreement with your mortgage company, you are required to insure your home. But in an insurance market like Florida, it's not always easy. And if you, as the homeowner, can't find insurance, then the mortgage company will do it for you. And when Rose's insurance company went into liquidation in 2022, she was happy her mortgage company, Freedom Mortgage, found coverage on her behalf, even if the premium cost $10,000 a year.
I was so grateful that, oh my God, they got it. I can afford this. Okay, it's more than what I was paying, but it's insurance. I'm safer.
That was until Hurricane Milton hit in October of 2024. Her roof started leaking.
And they sent somebody out for about 5 minutes. He just snapped a few pictures and left. And then everything went straight to the gutter.
Despite a contractor quoting her nearly $200,000 to fix the damages to the roof and walls of her home, after taking out her deductible, Rose got a check for $1,100.
Basically, they're saying this damage was already there, but it didn't rain in my house before Milton.
So she tried to dispute the claim, only to find out
I have no rights whatsoever.
that is because in a forced-placed insurance policy, the mortgage company is listed as the insured, not the homeowner.
You sit there and you think about it, and you use logic. Okay, I've got insurance. It's logical that they'll pay for the damage. And then when you hear not only are they not going to pay for the damage, but you have no rights.
But you, the homeowner, are still paying for it.
And there are law firms that strictly deal with problems with lender-placed insurance. And I called them and I was all excited. I have a case. This is what I'm looking for. Well, if your policy is written a certain way and your name's not on it, we can't do anything. I want people to hear that lender-placed insurance is not the way to go under any circumstances. Find a way to pay the higher amount if you can, and just be aware, or I should say, beware. They're not going to help you, and they don't care. No matter who you speak with, they don't care.
I emailed Rose's mortgage company, the insurance company, a claims services company, the state's CFO, and the state's insurance regulator about Rose's story. Within hours of our email, Rose's mortgage company called her, and they say they are now looking into her claim. The insurance questions I look into come from you, our viewers. So earlier this year, we let you lead the conversation with the Listens Town Hall. And one of the hot topics discussed was flood insurance, what you need to keep in mind when looking at what coverage you want when we return. As part of our commitment to get you answers, we brought you face-to-face with a panel of insurance experts this year so you could speak to them about your concerns directly. Here's part of that conversation.
We do want to start with the reason why we're here today. As I mentioned, Forest Hills in the city of Tampa was hit hard. This was an area that parts of this neighborhood was not even in a flood zone, and they got flooded due to a failure in city infrastructure. And they learned the tough lesson that even if the storm generators don't work, you could be on the hook, and you will be, because many of their property insurance did not come through for them if they didn't have flood insurance.
We've saw people with policies that said, oh, you must check this tiny little box here. Guys, that was so hidden in the policies. And we understand that FEMA's who gave me a loan to get my house fixed. But help us in that. How do we interpret the policies? And are y'all offering a service that people should call you?
Thank you, Bev. So she's talking about flood X designations here.
Yeah, so I'll jump in and start with this one. So, the first is, one thing we hear a lot from consumers is the difference between flood zone and evacuation zone, right? So your evacuation zone is typically posted on your county records. That is not your flood zone. Your flood zone is determined by FEMA. Unfortunately, what happens is a lot of times you'll have these two zones, typically it's called an AE or a VE, and that's a mandatory purchase flood zone. So that means if you have a mortgage from a federally backed bank that you're required to purchase flood insurance coverage on there. And then you have what's a non-mandatory flood zone, and that's typically a B, C, or X. Now what happens is you will hear from many and many, realtors, and you'll see it on Zillow listings, and it says no flood zone. There's no such thing as a flood zone or no flood zone. It's just the level of risk of a flood zone. And so an X is still in a flood zone. It's just that your lender doesn't require the purchase of coverage on there. Now, when you have an X flood zone, typically it's about $450 to $550 a year to purchase a flood policy on there, and sometimes even less. And so that's essentially the way that works. And then you would buy that flood policy, and it would cover for, the easiest way to think about it is, if it comes from above and takes your roof off, that's your hurricane policy, and that's your homeowner's policy. If it comes from below and it comes from the street into your house, that becomes a flood policy, and that's what's not covered in homeowners insurance.
I would just add that it's not just here in the infrastructure that failing through Ian, Helene, and Milton. There are many stories of people who have never flooded, home hasn't flooded in 100 years, that have flooded since then. So you need flood insurance if you're in Florida. So that would be what I would
But I calculate probabilities for a living, and these X zones, I can tell you that the federal government defined these X zones in the 1970s as places that are unlikely to have a flood more than once in 100 years. Now, do you want to trust the abacus or whatever they used back in the 1970s to figure out that probability at the federal government? First of all, do you want to trust the federal government to tell you that? And if you don't, then you should have flood insurance because it's cheap and affordable, and your best source for all that coverage is your independent agent.
And we haven't just spoken to industry experts and companies about the changing state of insurance. I've also worked to keep you up to date on how state leaders are taking action to address this issue important for so many Florida families. Still ahead, a look at the changes to the My State Florida Home Program, condo coverage, and tort reform. A Spring Hill homeowner emailed me asking for help on his vandalism claim. He says bad renters destroyed his house, but citizens denied his claim. And he says it is all due to the recent insurance reform. He can't sue or even fight his claim in court.
There's nothing I can do. And that's why I reached out, hoping you guys could help bring this to light.
So I went to see the damage myself, and I took his story directly to Citizens' CEO, and that's where I discovered this new way of fighting claims against citizens, attorneys say, has the odds stacked against you.
Holes in the wall.
Tom Luby
throughout.
Points to the mess.
Paint. Just
left behind by tenants.
They left junk everywhere.
And when he stops, you hear the burden in his sighs.
I don't know what they did there.
Taking us through his Spring Hill rental that he says is destroyed, calling the sheriff out here twice.
This is the sheriff's report.
To evict the tenants.
He was a contractor.
And again to report vandalism.
Once I realized the condition of the home, I didn't know what to do.
Because according to his citizens insurance policy,
here we go. Here's the deck page.
Vandalism and mischief is supposed to be covered. Instead, Tom's nearly $100,000 claim was denied.
They denied it, saying it wasn't vandalism. It was a remodeling job gone bad.
So Tom says citizens denied his claim because they say this is just a botched remodeling case. But Tom says look at the damage. If you'll see, there are appliances smashed in. Some appliances stolen altogether. Damage here extensive that he says is clearly vandalism.
In the lease, it clearly states no remodeling without written consent from the owner, which none was given.
After his second denial,
we understand that disagreements can arise.
Citizens offered him only one option to fight his claim.
Florida law requires us to notify the policyholder of their rights to participate in the property insurance mediation.
It's forced mediation through the Florida Division of Administrative Hearings, also known as DOA, where the results of these hearings have now triggered a congressman calling for a federal investigation. This after ProPublica investigated, of the Citizens cases that go to this final DOA hearing, Citizens is winning more than 90% of the time.
Which means people out there are definitely getting screwed.
Congressman Maxwell Frost examining 29 final hearings where Citizens won 20 times. The other 9 cases, the attorneys withdrew.
And so we have a lot of questions as to why was this included in the law?
He sent this letter to the governor, the insurance commissioner, and leaders of both the Florida House and Senate demanding answers.
I think Citizens is very important, but it cannot be on the backs of the working people of Florida.
Look what they did to the tub.
It's why Tom had such trouble finding an attorney.
I probably could have called 20 lawyers, and 19 of them would have said no.
Finally landing.
It's the most un-American, unfair system I've ever seen in my life.
On attorney Anthony Lopez out of Miami.
It's a forum where the chips are so heavily stacked against the policyholder. The neutral arbitrators, the judges in DOA, there's absolutely no chance a policyholder is getting a fair shake in this forum.
You used quotes there because you do not think that this DOA board is impartial.
I also think it's very telling that Citizens is winning basically 99% of all of these hearings.
You've always been fair to us, but you ask tough questions. We have to be willing to answer the tough questions.
So I took these claims to Citizens CEO himself, Tim Serio.
So we don't want it to go to litigation if we can avoid it for a policyholder's benefit. If we do refer a case to DOA and it goes to final hearing, we do believe that we're right.
Look, all the junk everywhere.
Serio says all claims go through a 6-step review process before that final hearing, and says the claim Citizens is winning nearly all of the cases comes with some context. Serio said of all the claims disputed, 37% sent to DOA are settled by Citizens, and 52% are simply dropped by the attorneys before that final hearing.
That means that of the cases referred to DOA, 89% of the time there is an agreed to resolution. That is not unfair.
That means only 11% go to the final hearing.
That's the latest data.
But of that 11%, Citizens is winning most of the time.
Citizens is winning most of the time. And I will tell you, even out of that 11, even included in that 11%, some lawyers are showing up and refusing to put on evidence, or they're dismissing. Even once the hearing starts, they'll walk away from the case.
So will you argue that they're doing that because it's not fair?
Well, let me put it this way. Either there's no evidence to support the claim, or if they've got evidence and they're refusing to put on the case, I don't say this lightly, that's malpractice.
If you were a policyholder, would you go forward? Would you have any hope that you would win?
Yes, in the sense of if you have a claim, but Nadeen, let me put it this way. We work very, very hard to make sure that if a claim needs to be paid, it is paid.
They put in a duck pond.
As for Tom's case,
technically, in my mind, if this was in front of a jury and a judge, we would prevail.
I can't even make an argument. I'm not saying I'll win or lose. I think, how could I lose? You can see the damages. But I can't even make an argument.
How stressful is this, Tom?
Very. I don't sleep at night. I didn't sleep last night, but I didn't sleep last night with a little bit of anticipation that I could finally have a voice. And that kept me, in a happy way, awake.
After my interview with Citizens CEO, they said they will look into Tom's case again. Meanwhile, a Hillsborough County homeowner recently sued Citizens over this forced mediation process, and a judge temporarily paused the process altogether. Citizens, they're already appealing that, saying that this process is fair and legal. This year, when the My Safe Florida Home program reopened, there was so much demand the site crashed for several hours. The popular program lets homeowners get up to $10,000 in state grant money to stormproof their homes. But a local couple told me that they were cut out after lawmakers changed the requirements of the program once again.
It goes on to say, we understand this may be disappointing, and we encourage you to explore other potential resources.
When you guys got that letter, what was that like?
You think there's something going on, and now all of a sudden they pull the rug out from under you.
The program is aimed at lowering insurance costs for homeowners. But in the last 4 years, the program has received over $800 million in funding and helped over 40,000 homeowners. But only half of their insurance premiums actually went down as a result. In fact, about 5,500 homeowners saw their premiums rise and 12,000 saw premiums hold stable. That concerns some state lawmakers. In October, the head of the program answered tough questions before the Florida House Subcommittee on Insurance and Banking.
We were asked to implement this program to help drive down the rates because there was a recognition by the legislature in 2022 that they were going up. So I would just simply say our goal and our desire is we're pushing against the flow as best we can.
The director also pointed out what they can't measure is how many homeowners avoided having their insurance canceled altogether by getting that work done. Many Floridians got letters saying that they would not be renewed if they didn't get a new roof. I've also heard from condo owners in Tampa Bay who felt like they were getting priced out of paradise by crippling HOA fees and surprise sky-high assessments.
So I seen my condo, $450 doubled in 2 years to $900, and I've seen thousands of dollars in assessments. That's what it's cost us. That's when we were reaching out and said, hey, what's going on? And you offered to come in and talk to us.
Are they more than like your mortgages at this point?
Yes.
Your HOA fees are higher than what you're paying for your mortgage.
$900. Almost double.
And this year, a revised condo reform law went into effect. All condos 30 years or older or 3 stories or higher must still have those milestone inspections, but it now delays deadlines to begin funding reserves by 1 year and allows flexibility to finance those repairs. Condo associations now have the option of using lines of credit or loans instead of cash to fund future required repairs. But some of the condo owners in St. Pete who I spoke to say they feel like the cost of insurance hasn't even been addressed when talking about condos.
It would have been nice if they addressed that more than they addressed loaning people money.
Why hasn't there been a dialogue about insurance for condos?
Ultimately, I think that when you have when these repairs are made, these updates are made, that will drive the premiums down because insurers will be there will be greater comfort on the level of insurers that they're insuring a safe building. But the condo insurance market is not healthy and definitely needs reform.
The sponsor of the condo reform bill, State Senator Jen Bradley, told me she expects the upcoming session to include more dialogue about condo insurance. This year, I also looked into a report that claimed insurance reform in Florida is not working after hearing from viewers.
I mean, I did consult with a lawyer, he did come out with everything.
You went that far out?
I did because I, wanted to be prepared.
And what did the lawyer tell you?
It's really risky to sue because then you can be responsible for all the attorney's fees. So you'd be out even more.
Liz Ann was ready to fight her claim in court after last hurricane season, but she was one of the 129,000 Floridians denied any payment after Hurricane Milton because her claim came in under deductible. Dr. Martin Weiss claims because insurance tort reform, insurance companies purposely denied more claims, going from 40% of denials in 2022 to nearly 47% denied in 2024.
Insurance companies denied claims even more aggressively. Why did they do that? Well, it's very possible it's because they thought that the tort reform, making it more difficult for consumers to sue, would have protected them from those lawsuits. So they denied claims more aggressively. The rate of lawsuits filed in Florida against homeowners insurance surged by 24% after tort reform.
But state insurance leaders are slamming this report, claiming Weiss is skewing the data for his own narrative. The Florida Office of Insurance Regulation says lawsuits against insurers are lower than they were before 2018, and the increase in denials for Hurricanes Helene and Milton, well, the state claims 2 main reasons here. Homeowners did not have flood insurance, or their hurricane deductibles were too high. This is what an attorney had to say on the matter.
Because insurance companies have been emboldened by the tort reform in order to deny claims that they would once pay.
But Security First, one of the first insurers to reduce rates, say lawsuits are down.
I think it's also important not to take one person's story or one person's situation and extrapolate it out amongst the 100,000 plus claims that did occur, because there were a lot of people that had a very good experience and whose claim was handled quickly and fairly.
The insurer also discredits the Weiss report, saying it analyzes just a small piece of data that has been misrepresented. This is what Liz Ann says happened to her after our story aired.
And it wasn't until like immediately after you had reached out and told me, all of a sudden then they were willing to relook at it.
Still ahead, a look at how state regulators say they are holding insurance companies accountable to you, the consumer. This fall, Florida leaders slapped more than $2 million in fines against 10 property insurance companies. The Florida's insurance commissioner looking at how these companies responded to Hurricanes Ian and Idalia through what's called a market conduct evaluation. And they found, quote, several misconducts, including the companies using unauthorized adjusters, leaving out disclosures when giving damage repair estimates, and failing to provide homeowners with a copy of their homeowners claims bill of rights. And in one case, the state found error rates on over 60% of the claims in Hurricane Ian and over 80% of the claims for Hurricane Idalia. They also found that many of these companies did not meet that 90-day deadline to pay or deny claims. I emailed those companies fines. Century Insurance, now LilyPad Insurance, says that they were not running the company at the time. Monarch Insurance blamed one of their underwriters that are now bankrupt, and Kin Insurance Network says that they worked with state officials to address and correct all of the findings, and that the majority were technical in nature. We have their full statements right now on TampaBay28.com/insurance. Another question I took to state leaders: do you think it's fair that CEOs of insurance companies like Slide Insurance Company make over $20 million a year like he did in the last year? What my deep dive revealed after the break. Now to an in-depth look at the salary of a Tampa-based CEO of Slide Insurance. It is a story that had so much interest from many of you that this one went viral.
On March 25th, 2025.
Betsy Braden puts on her glasses and purses her lips, perplexed by the letter she got in the mail in March.
At 12:01 a.m.
saying she's being forced off of Citizens Property Insurance and over to Slide Insurance.
Slide Insurance Company assumed full responsibility for claims filed by your personal residential property insurance policy previously issued by Citizens.
And did you even know that this was happening? This process was happening?
Not really. I really wanted to stay with Citizens, and I don't know anything about Slide. I was, I don't know what kind of company it is, so.
But being part of the League of Women Voters and a consummate constituent, she and her friends started doing some digging on her new insurer.
It is absurd.
Quickly seeing that the CEO of her new insurance company, Bruce Lucas, is making $21.1 million. And his wife, COO Shannon Lucas, another $16.5 million. This reported in a May 2025 SEC filing.
What is your reaction to that?
It's very sad because people are struggling in Florida.
According to the Office of Insurance Regulation, Slide Insurance is the 6th largest insurance company in Florida with 334,000 policyholders, building its books on the backs of Citizens Property Insurance, taking out 245,000 Citizens policies.
So we did the math, and at a compensation package of $37.7 million, that means $112 of each policy goes directly into this couple's pockets. That's enough for each policyholder to take the couple out to a nice dinner here at Donatello's, get 2 pasta dishes, and maybe even enough for dessert.
I reached out to Slide to get answers about this multi-million-dollar package. A spokesperson for Slide said they were not allowed to comment, citing this was the quiet time under SEC regulations.
We hear it all the time. People are outraged at that level of executive compensation.
Doug Quinn is with the American Policyholder Association.
I've had people from Slide complain that they got moved over from Citizens, in many cases against their will. It was a forced takeout. And above and beyond that, when they get their first renewal, they've been zinged with large premium increases.
But the question our viewer sent us was, do you think it's fair?
I don't think it's fair, so I think that we need to vote in people that care about us and not billionaires.
I took that directly to our new CFO, Blaise Ingoglia.
People are still seeing their premiums go up.
Moments after he was appointed as the state's top insurance leader.
It's fair they're making $21 million?
Yeah.
CEOs?
It's super concerning, but we need to have the legislative authority to look at it. We don't have it right now, and unfortunately that was stopped.
Even if the legislature's not doing anything, what can you do about it?
What we can do is add the bully pulpit. I'm going to get on social media, I'm going to hold press conferences, and I'm going to make sure I'm going to call out any bad behavior that I see.
Well, this was a year where several insurance companies filed for rate decreases, and more than a dozen new companies have now entered the market. Next, I'm breaking down these numbers, and we're hearing what it takes for a new insurer to enter the state. As we now look to the future, it's important to see where we started this year. In January, the insurance commissioner presented a market report to the Florida Senate Committee on Banking and Insurance, and it showed that the average insurance premium was just over $3,700 to start the year. The Insurance Information Institute told us the statewide average at the end of October was now just over $3,800. That means average premiums have gone up by less than 1% in Florida. According to the Insurance Information Institute, that is the lowest average increase in the country. And this year, dozens of providers filed for rate decreases. And in more good news, there are also new insurance companies entering the market. One of these new options is Patriot Select. I sat down with the CEO, a fourth-generation Floridian and former chief risk officer for Citizens Property Insurance. He told me he has had to raise millions of dollars in capital, convincing investors, despite last hurricane season, that now was the time to get into Florida's insurance market. So it took some convincing for these investors.
Yes, it did. These investors have picked up the paper and read the headlines about, Florida was a mess. There was too much litigation in the claims environment. Had a lot of hurricanes hitting at the same time. Insurance companies, some of them were not doing well.
Why now? Why is now the good time to invest in Florida's insurance market?
Number one, the legislature kind of finally did the right thing in restoring Florida's claims litigation environment to sort of like what it is in the 49 other states. The stabilization of the reinsurance market is probably point 2. And I think point 3 is, again, Florida is, at the end of it all, is a fast-growing addressable homeowners insurance market.
And because of those new companies and new competition, Florida's Citizens Property Insurance is no longer the largest insurance company in the state. The state-backed insurer of last resort has been shedding policies by the tens of thousands this year to reduce their risk. Almost 200,000 people got takeout letters in the mail just in October, saying they are now being dropped by Citizens and sent into the private market through what Citizens calls their depopulation process. That brings Citizens' total policy count to 568,000 in the state. For more than a year, I have been committed to helping you navigate Florida's insurance market, answering your questions and digging into why claims are being denied. If you have a claim or a story that you would like me to look into, you can reach out to me on tampabay28.com/insurance. There you can also find additional information on all of the stories I have shared with you throughout this hour, as well as my other in-depth reports on the state of insurance. Thank you for joining us.